Having big dreams, even specific objectives, is great. But before you go rushing into it, it's always good to sit down and do a little planning and preparation.
Having objectives, having smart objectives, and knowing how you would deliver on them, and knowing what resources that you need to deliver on them. And I think it's quite important to have a proper planning stage when you know that the resources are quite limited, because then you can at least say that should things not work out during the implementation phase, you were able to foresee that during your planning phase. And if you do the planning properly, honestly, then things should hopefully work out well while you're implementing the project.
In this section, we'll cover coming up with your activities, putting them on a timeline, organising your budget, recruiting a team to work with you. How can you make your objectives a reality? What will you actually do? Rather than figure it out entirely as you go, it's good to brainstorm as much as possible up front. Think about each objective and write down on your worksheet all of the different things you want to do to achieve it, and group similar types of activities together. It's important to create a timeline, working out what order you need to do things in and roughly how long things will take.
When we write concept notes, we're trying to have a work plan with timing, actually, a schedule, so we're trying to stick to it.
To help develop a timeline, you need to consider what needs to happen before I can do this, what can be done once I've done this, and how long will it take to do. What date will you start? What date will the activity be complete? Often you'll have a deadline for your project to be complete, so once you've finalised the order of activities, you might want to work backwards from the deadline. Now, use your worksheet to write all of this down in one place, the overall categories, the specific activities, and the dates you'll complete them. This is called a work plan. If you already know who will be doing the tasks, you can even put the names next to the tasks so everyone knows who has agreed to do what and by when they need to have them finished. The really great thing about running a project is that you can get other people excited by your vision and have them work with you to make it a reality. Working with friends and others who are passionate about your idea also means you can achieve a lot more than if you were working by yourself. You won't be alone, and there will be others with specialist skills who can do things you can't. Sometimes you'll already have a team or a group of friends who want to help out even before you've fleshed out your idea. Other times you'll want to decide the roles you need and then go out and find the right people for the jobs. Either way, it's a good idea for everyone to have a clear position description for their job or volunteer role, so that they know what they need to do. Take a look at the work plan you have created. Write a list of all of the different skills that you will need and all of the activities that need to be done. Often, you will be able to create roles around each of the key areas in your work plan, or some roles might be focused on particular skills, such as graphic design or looking after the finances. For example, you might want to recruit a workshop coordinator to go into schools and deliver workshops. Or you might want to recruit a graphic designer who can help produce promotional materials for the workshops, plus all your other planned activities. Look at how much work each role would take. Could one person do that? Or would you want several people doing it? Think about a reasonable expectation of the amount of time required for the role. From here, decide the number of people you will need. Groups of people can work together really effectively if they are organised and motivated. An effective team needs clear structure so that volunteers understand who they report to and who can support them. You should structure your team to match the relationship you want to have with them. Each project is different, and sometimes it is more appropriate for you to be the final decision maker on everything. In other projects, it can be important to have a team of people make decisions together. It is definitely better to share decision making with others when they spend a lot of time on the project, as much as you. They are experienced at running projects, and they are committed for the length of the project. The more people you're managing or supporting, the less work on a project you'll get done yourself. It can take at least 1 to 2 hours a week to manage or support someone. Even really experienced people struggle to manage more than about 8 people in total. If you have very large teams of volunteers, you can create a hierarchy to help you manage them. In a hierarchy, you coordinate a small number of people, and in turn, each of them coordinates a team of their own.
The executives were always in contact with their members, like the group members, and the committee chairs sort of would report to us. So you get this sort of structured system where it runs on efficiency, so no time is wasted.
If you have a smaller team working on a project, it can be important to make decisions together, so everyone feels a sense of ownership and a sense of empowerment. However, even in this scenario, you have to ensure that each individual is responsible for delivering an area of work. If no one is ultimately responsible, it can be hard to ensure things will happen. Consider which structure will work best for you and your team, and use one of the templates in the worksheets to write it down. Position descriptions are really helpful. They set out expectations about what each role involves that everyone understands and agrees to. Look at the template in your worksheet and create a position description for each role that you need. The first thing you need to do is come up with a title for the role. It's important you come up with something simple and understandable to those both inside and outside the team. Do not give people really important sounding job descriptions immediately. Keep them sounding equal and leave room to adopt grander titles later when people have proved themselves. Write a quick outline of the job, just a few paragraphs or 150 words that explain the role. You can also use this in promotion for the role, so it should be simple and grab people's attention. Then write 3 sets of dot points. First, responsibilities, what they'll have to do and the expected outcomes. Second, the skills required to do the job, what they'll need to be able to do. These should have a maximum of 8 items each. Third, tell people what they'll get out of it for themselves. While of course your project is primarily about making a difference in the world, it's good to explain the type of experience people will have and any other benefits for them. Finally, you should add some basics to your position description, such as the number of hours they need to commit per week, whether it is paid, stipend or volunteer role, whether there are specific requirements, such as attending a meeting at a particular time, the role that the project reports to, i.e. the manager. This is where they will go to for support.
I've realized that when you want to work with a group of people, division of labor is so important. You want to make sure you split it into different committees so you can get all the different aspects of that project done, but at the same time it's much more effective when you when you trust other people in your group to make sure the job gets done. You really need to involve different groups of people if you really want your activism to grow. So make sure you get different kinds of people and appoint them to different committees and work together through that.
But where do you find these people? Brainstorm a list of possible ways you might be able to find people, like friends and their friends, professional networks, email lists, university job boards, schools, teachers, online social networks such as Facebook, MySpace, Bebo, Twitter, and taking it global. You will want to create a short advertisement based on the summary in your position description. Add information on how to apply, if there is a closing date, and how to get more information. When preparing the advertisement, make sure you think about what would excite the kind of person you are looking for. Then post this advertisement in all locations that you came up with above. This is also the moment to talk to your friends and family. Ask them if they would be interested in taking on the role and excite them with the opportunities it presents. Picking the right people. Using the position description as a guide, develop a set of criteria for the role. When you are considering interested friends or approaching people, keep these points in mind. Character. Are they people of integrity, volunteering for the right reasons? Chemistry. Are they a good fit for your team? Competence. Do they possess appropriate skills and knowledge for the job? Depending on the role, you can add other criteria that you are looking for. If you have a lot of applicants for the same role, you might need to create a more formal process. In your worksheet, we have included an example of a formal selection process. Look at all the applications and assess them against the skills required. Sort into piles of interview, maybe, and no. Make a decision on who to interview, call them and set up a time. Give the location, time, duration, your contact name and number. Tell them the dress code to make sure they feel comfortable when they arrive. Develop a list of standard questions that you want to ask each applicant. You can create a scoring scale based on the criteria to help you choose. Rank the applicants on each criteria on a scale of 1 to 10. Clearly communicate to the applicants the process and next steps. If you cannot decide the first time, then set up a second round of interviews. Contact all of the unsuccessful applicants and ask the people you liked if they're interested in other roles. The other key thing to think about before you start your project is money. Developing a budget can seem daunting, but it's really just a quick two-step process. The first step is to wish. In an ideal world, what would your budget look like if you completed all of your activities and all of your objectives were exceeded and you could access all the money that you needed? Start with your expenses. Make a list, estimated figures on how much you think things will cost.
So we do maintain like a budget. We have like a sort of rough calculation of the amount of money that we might need to spend because it helps us to fund. And also when you do go to corporates, they do want to have an idea of how much you're going to spend so that they know how much to give you.
Now, think about your income. List where you're expecting or hoping to get money from. Estimated figures are fine at this stage. We will think about the likelihood of it happening in the next step. You also need to think about how much it will actually cost to raise this money. For example, the cost of organising a fundraising event, and make sure that anything you spend to raise this money is also on the list of expenses.
We try to set a goal and we present that to whoever is willing to sponsor us or willing to sort of donate some of their money. And based on that, we try to either bring down the cost or we can try to expand it if they're willing to give it more. I guess you really have to be flexible in terms of your budget.
Look at your budget, both income and expenditure, and ask the question, is that realistic? After realising that it's usually not, think hard about adjustments you can make. Categorise items in your expense budget by importance. What things are non-negotiable and just cannot be reduced? What could you scale down? What's optional? And is there anything that is not important at all? And also by type. Do you have to raise the cash to pay for them? Is it more likely you can get them given to you, which is called in kind? For your income, rate the likelihood of obtaining each of the items in your list and develop strategies for increasing the chances of actually getting your hands on the money.
When you're trying to raise funding for a project, you have to go through to different kind of people, and it usually doesn't work the first time, but then you come back on the project, you write more, maybe you make it more precise or concrete. You're trying to improve it basically, and then you find another potential donor, and perhaps the second time it works.
It's important that you think about and plan for things going wrong during your project.
Last year, we tried to make an art summit, environmental art summit, but it was like we already have the sponsor, we already got the money and the performers and everything, but like 2 weeks before the event, the organizer of the place said that you cannot use our place as the venue, and I was like, okay. So we didn't do the art summit. We gave back the money to the sponsor, but I think failure is part of a learning process. I mean, it's not that we fail, but it's just the condition.
People might get sick, venues can fall through, it can rain, and you will forget to do things. Writing up a plan of what could go wrong will reduce the chances of this happening, as you'll know what not to do. And it will mean that if things do go wrong, you'll be prepared for them. When it's written up, this sort of plan is called a risk assessment, which is a scary sounding word that just means my plans if things go different to planned. There are lots of ways of preparing a risk assessment. Get a stack of notepaper and with your team or by yourself, brainstorm a list of all the things that might not go according to plan. Write one on each note. A useful way of doing this is going through your work plan and asking the question, what if? If you're doing this with a team, get people to focus specifically on their area of responsibility and consider things like people or institutions that might be resistant and put up barriers, any legal implications of your project. What happens if things cost more than expected? And what if a staff person leaves? Does it matter? Now you've developed a list of things that could go wrong. You need to work out how likely they are to actually happen and the impact that they would have on the work that you are doing. The easiest way to do this is to use a matrix like this. Use the matrix in your worksheet to estimate the likelihood and impact of the risks. What you should do in response to your risk assessment depends on what type of risks were identified. The good news is that you don't need to worry anymore about anything in the white area. For anything in the grey area, fill in the table so you have a plan you can use to reduce the chance of something going wrong and deal with it if it does go wrong. And for things in the black area, you need to think about changing your plans because right now there's too high a chance that things won't work the way you want. So let's recap. As much as you're itching to start your project, it will go much more smoothly with planning. A work plan and timeline can help you understand and remember what needs to be done. Clear position descriptions will help you recruit an amazing team to help out. A realistic budget will ensure that you have enough money to deliver. And because things never go quite to plan, you should plan for that as well.